in the closet, that I could feel their presence in the house. It was advised to me to use pure rose oil. Apparently, they don't like rose oil, and you have to get the really, really good pure rose oil, not the cheap stuff, which it's pretty expensive. And to put it on the middle of my forehead. So I had some next to my bedstand when they continued to come, and that seemed to help. And I was also told they don't like fresh roses, so I put fresh roses in the bedroom. But the final time they came, I was scheduled to go on another trip, our final trip in Silent Whispers, in March, middle to end of March, and they came again beginning of March. And in this instance, they paralyzed my body, but they didn't paralyze my head. So they put this chokehold energy on my throat, on my neck. And I was able to move my head back and forth, but I saw these shadows up on the ceiling of the graves, but they looked different. Their head was not as large. I didn't see any red eyes. They looked different from the first time. And I just told them, get off me, screaming, obviously, and I was much more frantic at the time, but they've come back since, but they're not as aggressive.
Wow. So they basically were telling you to lay off what you're doing, or they're going to, they could just take over your whole life, basically, and destroy it. That's what I think they were warning you.
That's what they want me to believe, right?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Oh, so what other encounters have you had? I mean, so you wrote this book, and now after you wrote the book, I mean, have you had more encounters, for writing the book? And what type of flack have you had?
Well, the book ends with Albuquerque, where we have intruders coming in our casita, which I referred to before, where physical people came into the little place that we were renting. But at the very end of the book, I have part of chapter 1 for the second book. So in the second book, we visit Mount Blanca, which is in Colorado. And I didn't know why we were guided to go to this location. There's no evidence of any military base there. There is evidence that it's a UFO hotbed. There's a lot of stuff going on there, but there's no evidence that tortured children are there. But, we went ahead and went based on guidance. And when we went to visit, we were just driving around, completely clueless. Why are we here? What are we looking for? Where are we exploring? And we visited a cemetery. It's a really old, very small cemetery that's fenced in. Well, outside of this fence, it's just, trees and place to walk around, which I did with my friend who came with me. Well, the other person, the third person that goes with us, she stayed in the car. My friend and I were only walking maybe 7-8 minutes. We came back to the car, and when I got in the driver's seat for us to leave, I noticed something was wrong. And I saw in the side view mirror a reflection of an image that was on my driver's side window. It was stamped into the dust. A lot of dirt roads, really dusty there. It was summer, July. And it was this beautiful image. It looked like a map. It was a perfectly drawn image in the dust on the window in the time span of 7 minutes, maybe, when someone else was in the car. I don't know. At the time, I didn't know where it came from, who did it. We were totally alone in this little cemetery. And that image is on the front cover of my book, Silent Whispers.
Now, that would honestly scare me a lot to have that happen to me. That's just, I don't know how you could handle all this. I mean, wow. Any other things like that happen to you since then, or?
Well, yes. I mean, that was Mount Blanca, which is the first chapter of the second book, which I start in the first book. But the image which again looks like a map, looks like perhaps a solar system, a different solar system than ours. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then we went to Wyoming last September, so September of 2017. We went to Lander, Wyoming, where there have been different rumors going on. And when we were there, my friend, we were staying in a hotel room, and my friend was taking her shower, and she said, "Tami, Tina, get in here, look at this." Tina and I are looking at like, we're not going in there. She's naked. She's just got out of the shower. Are you kidding me? And she kept yelling, "Get in here. You have to see this." So I eventually go in, and on the steam, so in that bathroom, there's a half wall that separates the sink from the toilet. This is not on the shower wall. This is on a different wall, but it's glass.
Uh-huh.
And in the steam, there is an image, the exact image that was on our car in Mount Blanca, except the circle is in a different place. So if you look at the book cover of Silent Whispers, you'll see that a circle's in a specific place, a small circle is in a specific place. Well, that small circle is in a different location, but it's the same exact image out of the blue when she's taking a shower.
Oh, that's scary is that means they know where you're going. I mean, and did you have that motel or hotel booked, or did you just take it out of random?
The hotel?
Yes.
I found that hotel on Booking.com.
Okay.
It was the casino, actually, a casino hotel that's in Lander. Lander's a really small town. But that image that was on my window and then later in the bathroom, those are from very positive ETs.
Uh-huh.
So there's a lot of ETs out there who want to create harm. They want to continue their species, their survival, and they do experiments, they abduct. And then there's ETs that don't abduct, but they're still in survival. And then there's ETs that want to assist the Earth,
uh-huh,
for the most part. So those signs were actually from positive ETs.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, the standpoint, they knew right where you were, staying at.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and let alone...
Yeah, they're really smart.
They knew when you were at the cemetery or making your walk. The map appeared on the glass. It's so interesting. They knew exactly where you were. And I don't know if it has to be mind power where they're reading your mind.
They're really smart. That is for sure.
Yeah.
It is amazing how intelligent different species are and different beings, let's say.
Uh-huh. Well, a lot of people don't realize. I mean, if you take a being that could be 10,000 years or 50,000 years ahead of us, I hate to say it, we're no more than an insect to them. I hate to say it.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the scary part. So, I mean, abduction too. I mean, when you're talking about kids, it's just not kids. It's an adults, all ages. But it seems to be more women being abducted than men, from what I've been reading. And I have read where a lot of children have been abducted and never seen again. But it seems to be either the young or women. It seems to be more abducted than men for some reason. I don't know if you feel that way or if you ran across it in your research.
I have not in particular, so I don't know either way. But from the kids who came to me, it seemed to be. I didn't count. I haven't gone through the book and actually counted the number of girls versus the number of boys, but it seems to be a varied mix of children versus teenager and male versus female.
Uh-huh. Well, how do you get
them?
But
certainly, but I can say that in one point in the book I do talk about that I was told that females are especially desired for their reproductive system.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that gets back to the missing, women. Okay, how when you have a spirit come to you, and it's trapped on Earth, and it wants to go to heaven or wherever we end up going, where our spirit goes to. How do you get them to be able to pass on?
The best way to help someone cross over is to offer compassion and love, to offer a space of safety. So a lot of these, well, all of these kids had a lot of fear. You know, some of the kids were afraid to cross over into the light because they had already been tortured by ETs, and they would associate the brightness of the light with the brightness of ETs and the light that they bring. Some of the kids, not all of them, of course, but some of the kids perceived that they didn't deserve to cross over, that they had done so much bad, so much wrong, that they deserved to be punished. Some kids perceived that no one wanted to see them on the other side, that no one loved them. Some kids were simply scared, and they couldn't sense the light. They couldn't see the light. So overall, it was in expressing to them compassion and the fact that they have a choice. They don't have to stay in the reality that they're stuck in. They always have a choice. But not all kids listened. On some of the trips that we went on, some of the kids said, "This is useless. No." And they would go right back into wherever they came from. And I can't stop them. All I can do is try and work with them. But you can't, or at least I cannot control a non-physical person. So I can simply offer my guidance, and then they have to choose.
Now, they talk about like ghosts and entities, sometimes can be in like a tape, endless tape, just playing its scene over and over again. Now, any of these kids experiencing the experiments, it's been done on them on a continuous, like a loop. Have you run across that at all?
That is a great question. Some of the kids experienced continue experimentation after their physical death and continue to remain in a loop after their physical death. So there was one little girl who just kept running in circles. She couldn't escape. She couldn't see the light. She couldn't communicate with anyone because no one could hear her. She just kept running in circles. And I remember she said to me, just dragon's tail, dragon's tail. And I can't remember off the top of my head which place that was. It might have been Los Alamos that we went to. But yeah, a lot of these kids, they just keep running in circles. And they don't know where to go. They don't know who to talk to. They don't know what to do. And they're still being controlled by someone or something. Some of them are. And then some of them are just trapped in their own trauma. And they can't see beyond it without that direct intervention.
Yeah. Now, I'm getting a few texts here from people listening right now. They're asking, can you explain what a medium is?
A medium is a kind of a middle person. So for me, I listen to the non-physical, I listen to what they're saying, and then I repeat it. And when I repeat it, for me, when I repeat it what they're saying and how they're saying it. So I'm like the middle person. I'm like the translator. So even if they originally spoke a different language in their physical life, which occurred, some of these kids spoke German or they spoke Polish during the Holocaust, it still translated to English through my mind to my brain, and then I would translate whether on my computer or to who I'm talking to.
Now, do they come to you, or are you looking for them? I mean, do they just come up to you and say, "Hey, I need your help"?
They come to me. They started coming to me despite my resistance, despite my not wanting to hear the horror. They were coming to me. And then when we go on these trips, we're walking around, we're looking for them, but they still come up to us when they're allowed. So some of these kids are still being controlled, and they're not allowed to reach out to us. which is very disappointing. But, we're in that, when we go on the trips,